Okay, in this video, we're going to look at the history of psychology, trying to understand its roots and how far back it goes, and it goes very far back. Psychology has been around probably since almost the beginning of civilization, with the ancient Greeks and the ancient Egyptians. As soon as we say the word psychology, we're studying human behavior, animal behavior, and the mind. And we have been studying human and animal behavior since the beginning in some shape or form. So you can see we're going to use reason, memory, and logic to apply the science, the natural sciences, and theory and test hypothesis to understand things like human behavior and psychology. Now, it all starts with philosophy. Philosophy is the search for truth, wisdom, or to be enlightened. So, a philosopher is somebody trying to find the truth. Well, originally, we didn't have science as we have today. So, philosophers would try to theorize based on observation and empirical evidence or observational evidence on why people act or think a certain way. Socrates is considered the first teacher in the Western civilization, and he would raise a lot of questions about things like what is justice? What is beauty? And things also like what rights do humans have? So we talk about beauty, and is there a psychology behind beauty? And there is. We find out that people tend to like symmetry. They like to see things that are cut in half and they're balanced. That is beautiful or attractive across cultures. There have been studies on men and women, and women tend to be attracted to older men, and that's older men that tend to be more ambitious or go-getting. And females or males tend to be more to value the attractiveness of a woman more than women do. It means more to us. Now, why? It might have to do with evolutionary psychology, and that males are looking for a healthy mate to have children, and they might want large hips and features of the woman that can, like large breasts that guarantee the health and birth of a child. And females might be looking for a mate, a male, that is going to be able to actually support and take care of her and the child. Now, Plato argued that we have innate knowledge about the world, that some of our behavior and understanding of the world is innate. Innate means that we're born with it, so that we know certain things about the world. Now, Aristotle believed that we understand the truth from the physical world through observation. So these are some ancient Greek philosophers and how they put this together. Aristotle created the foundation of scientific method. This idea that if I have an hypothesis, I can test it on some kind of set of procedures to get to some kind of common truth. And that if everybody does all the steps in a scientific method, we will all come out with the same results outside of humans. Now, the big challenge with science is human beings. Once we do an experiment, we make mistakes. Human beings are what's wrong with psychology and science. We make mistakes, and we are always trying to meet our confirmation bias. Our confirmation bias will go more into, but it's this idea that we're looking for things that support our perspectives, even if they're wrong, our mistakes. So if we think that short people are mean, our brain is going to look for patterns and examples of people in the world that are short, that are mean. And that will confirm our bias. And then it's hard to shake out of that bias. Probably the biggest example has also been with like the pandemic. People in a lot of ways had made up their mind before the vaccine coming out, whether or not they're going to get vaccinated or not. So they had decided, regardless of the science behind it, that, hey, I don't like shots. I'm looking for any kind of excuse on not to get vaccinated. And, I'll be fine. I'm strong. I'm healthy. I'm a big person. This isn't going to affect me. So your brain is going to do everything it can to confirm your bias. On the other side of it, though, is the science and research, where the vaccine has been tested time and time again. And using scientific method, scientists in America, scientists in Britain, scientists in China, scientists in Japan, scientists in Italy, they have all tested or evaluated research based on the vaccines and found out not only do they work, they're incredibly effective and they prevent people from getting seriously sick from COVID-19. However, if you took those positions, it's very hard to move you one way or another. People that were going to get the vaccine, they're happy and they explain everything as it went through the vaccine. People that won't get the vaccine, they're going to say, oh, it's because of this or that, or you could still get sick with the vaccine and blah, blah, blah. Not looking at the data where the vaccine will keep you out of the hospital or could save your life. Now, as a result, Greek philosophers also created the idea of dualism. This idea that the body and the spirit was developed. So the brain, your genetics or your heritage make us who we are, and command centers of the central nervous system. And then our spirit would be our environment, our experiences, our thoughts, our feelings, our memories, our sensations. And we're going to find out in psychology is that psychology helps us understand the science of our experience. That experience is not all just thoughts. Those thoughts have been impacted by our genetics and our heritage and our hormones. For example, our cortisol and our stress goes up. It's really hard to take a test. People that can lower their cortisol are more likely to do well on tests than in people that really shoot a lot of cortisol, which is their stress hormone, while they're taking a test. It's not always about being smart or dumb. It could be your hormones. How do you deal with this stuff? But on the other side of what's powerful about psychology is we can teach you and you can learn ways to recognize what's going on with your body and maybe counter that. So if I know I get anxiety and high levels of cortisol when I take a test, how about I do things like listen to music I like before I go into the test, or I chew gum to relax, or I meditate. We find out that people that meditate tend to perform better on testing because they can focus for longer periods of time and they can calm their bodies. So there are strategies we can learn in psychology to help us out. Now, the mid-century philosopher and Enlightenment philosopher Rene Descartes, he believed the physical world was not under some kind of divine rule. And this is influential on many of the Enlightenment philosophers, but rather that there's a set of observable laws or rules. And Descartes claimed that we all know what is in our consciousness, and that the whole external world is merely an idea or picture of our minds. Our perception is a reality, or idealism. So idealism is the idea that people believe that their reality is reality. Your confirmation bias is real to you, therefore it is reality. That's one argument. How I perceive the world is reality to me. End of story. Doesn't matter what anybody else says. And we're going to learn about a different argument that counters that. Descartes believed that there's some kind of pineal gland or part of the brain where the mind and the body interact. And this is all theorized because back then he couldn't look at the brain. Today we can look at the brain, and we're going to look at how we look at the brain. So for example, you can see on the right, we do things like MRIs, mirror imaging. So, and I've actually been in an MRI. It's a tube, they stick you into this, and it's ding, 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 ding. It's banging because what happens is they're using magnets and sound location to actually image what your brain looks like. And you can see that this is actually an older MRI scan, and you can see that there's 3 different brain pictures, and one has an abnormality, that the brain doesn't look the same as other brains. Something's wrong. Something's off. Could they have cancer? Could there be brain damage, like a concussion? And we can look at all these things. Enlightenment philosophers focus on understanding the physical world and society, and they really set this up, this idea, like Descartes, that we could study the physical world through the scientific revolution. They revisited the ancient Greeks, and they said, look, maybe they're onto something. If we create a theory and we follow procedures, we can come to a truth or an accurate result to an experiment. Here's our hypothesis. Here's the results. Now, what's very hard for humans is if I form a hypothesis and my results go against my hypothesis, my confirmation bias kicks in and I don't want to accept the results. However, the argument is with science, there is a truth even if we don't like the truth. So we study the physical world by testing hypotheses and establishing theories. Now we can look at the brain and actually see what parts of the brain do what very accurately. It's not just theory. Now we can test our hypothesis. Locke is one of the most influential Enlightenment philosophers, that one of the most famous books he wrote was Human Understanding, and trying to understand human beings. And this is also very much starting to tap into the field of psychology as we know it today. He created this theory of tabula rasa, which is the blank slate idea. And tabula rasa is this theory that the idea that everyone's born with a certain view of the world, that we're blank slates. We don't have a view. We don't have any experience. That we're born into the world like a blank slate or a whiteboard, and there's nothing there. And then based on our experience, we're taught things by people, good or bad, about other people or what to do and what not to do. Don't touch that stove. Why? Because it's hot. Well, that's not innate. It wasn't born in the kid. It's not your genes or your hormones. Your mom told you, don't touch the stove. You will get burned. And he's going to argue that if people, for example, if somebody treats each other meanly, you're going to tend to be more of a mean person. If you're treated very nice in life, you're going to tend to treat people maybe more nicely and with respect. Now, a person's blank slate is based on empirical data or empiricism, which is this idea of experience. We shape our experiences, our observations, our sense of perception. So again, he's kind of backing up Descartes in a lot of ways with idealism, but he's saying what shapes us to make us who we are is our experience, the way we act, our culture, the way people tell us information, or we talk, or we understand things. And now theorists have said that the power of language. Finally, we're going to talk about today is Thomas Hobbes. Now, Hobbes has a different point of view than Locke. Locke thought people were born good, and he believed that God was very important and created us, and that we were shaped by our experience. Thomas Hobbes disagrees with a lot of that. Thomas Hobbes believed that the idea of the soul or spirit is meaningless, that we don't have a spirit, we don't have a soul, that we're actually more like machinery, that we're a byproduct of machinery of the brain or nature, that we're all nature, and this is called materialism. Hobbes coined a theory of materialism, and that one thing that exists are matter, the only things that exist that are matter and energy. And now we use the term physicalism, which is that everything is based on the physical principles of the universe. So what matters is your hormones, your genes, your genetics, your heredity. That's what makes you successful. People that can adapt, according to the theory of evolution, will be successful. People that cannot adapt will not be successful. And Hobbes says that's just the nature of the world. Human beings are animals. In psychology, we study animal behavior, and we find out that we are primates, and primates have a lot of similarities with human beings, and that the physical world and as an animal, how we act is really based on our genes and hormones and the way our body is designed. And that's what we're going to hit today.